Being made to be a robot to worship a god and not having free will is still 1,000 times % better than eternal torture. I have no idea where this comparison came from. Oh, free will is worth the eternal suffering of millions of people. On what planet? On any planet worth living on. See, free will makes a lot of suffering possible, but free will also is the only thing that makes any real love possible, any real altruism possible. All of your good actions, all of your accomplishments, even the submission of your will to the will of God are either diminished or outright negated if you cannot do so freely. So it's saying that it's not worth it to have free will because it causes so much suffering either in this life or the next. Then you're saying that it is worth it to erase good if it means we can also erase evil. In a recent video I talked about choosing between cookies and poison. This is saying that because some people will pick poison, then nobody should get any cookies at all. We all have to eat bricks and centipedes. C.S. Lewis touched on this in The Great Divorce, where there was a man who was in hell and his wife was in heaven, and when he visited her, he was extremely distressed that he was not able to make her miserable. This idea that hell should be able to veto heaven, that there should be no good if it can't exist without evil. Whether or not it's worth it is entirely a matter of opinion. It's easy to say it's not worth it while enjoying your free will. And as far as is there free will in heaven, heaven is made up of wills that are all freely submitted to the will of God. You can make of that what you...
You are saying this free will we're talking about is the only way that somebody can get so-called genuine love. But this free will that we're talking of is worship me or suffer for eternity. If you put 2 cookies down on a table and being like, hey, you're free to pick either cookie. But if you pick that one, you're going to suffer and die. And then when you ask the person, why would you offer me this poisonous cookie? You say, well, I want you to have the freedom to choose either cookie. What?
So, I understand the analogy. I understand it was not your analogy. I understand you're just responding to the analogy. And I understand it's Brother Cooper's analogy. And while I get what he was getting at, I'd like to get at something a little bit different. And this is what I'm talking about. So, here's a comment that I left on your video. The issue that you seem to have is that it's this or that. And this or that seems like a threat to you. This or that is just reality. It happens all the time in the real world, right? It doesn't make it a threat. But to you, since you have one option and the second option is negative, it seems like a threat to you. So I want you to understand the analogy like this. If God is in the habit of restoring, then this or that being the only 2 options just makes sense. One doesn't restore a house and leave an option for that which is not restored, that being the option, not restored, behind. It's 2 options. You either don't restore the house at all, or you restore the moldy house. Ergo, restoration is completely full and sweeping. So this means when it's full and it's sweeping, you have 2 options. You have, again, the option to leave nothing. That is the positive option. Or you have the option to leave all the moldy stuff behind. But one commenter said, why not just give an option of 2 cookies, meaning just cookies. No good, no bad, just neutral. The problem is that's still moldy cookies. That would be like saying God's going to restore the house, but in the midst of him restoring the house, he's going to leave one spot on the drywall where it's moldy or has the potential for mold via spores. That isn't full and that isn't sweeping. Ergo, it's not a full restoration. So when you're doing a full restoration, you only have 2 options. And those 2 options looks like one is the great option and one is the negative option, i.e. the threat, right? The negative option for you in this analogy is that God is sweeping the house and he's clearing out all of the old bad debris and he's burning it. And the other option is full restoration of the house. So you have 2 options. You choose which option. So it's not really a threat. It's just the reality of what God is in the business of doing. Restoration.